Previously on Tales of the Free Folk. Escape. Defeating a team of bounty hunters in the ruins, our fellowship was shown a path out of the canyons. Now the hillmen hope to bring them to their home, where more might be revealed about the ceremonial piece of armor they have recovered, and about the mysterious ritual associated with its history.
You know, I'm glad Ending only uses the voice just for that, Sarissa.
What?
What's wrong with it?
I'm glad he uses the voice just for that. Well, it's there's nothing wrong with it, but if he used that voice every day, all day,
It would
be
get
very
quite
hard.
annoying.
Now let the boy have his fun.
I feel that voice wouldn't be inappropriate for the ending character's character.
No, it would not.
Oh, he's totally doing it in character. That's how I'm. That's how I'm.
That's his Don Pardo voice. Yes.
Don Pardo voice. Who is this Don Pardo? Is he a hobbit?
Don is more of a big folk name, I think.
Yeah.
Well, if it's one name altogether, maybe a hobbit name.
True. Okay, so as you know, the world continues to go on outside of what the player characters do. So just for this episode, I just want to see how it goes, to just sort of take a moment and just show some things that have gone on that the players, the characters don't see, but we, the audience, and the players as people in real life can just sort of keep an eye out for.
Is this
so
what
I
was
think
supposed to be in the article that you didn't post?
no. This isn't in the Days of the Kings. This is in the present day.
Okay.
So, like if this were sort of like a television show, we'd have our previously on scenes just showing what's happened from the last episode. And then I think we just sort of like cut to black and we'll fade back in, and we see there's this man in just black robes. And he's in the middle of this bustling camp, and you can't really see what's going on in the camp, but you can hear noises. There's metal clanging on metal. There's like the drone of chatter going on. But this man is walking sort of away from the camp towards this, presumably his tent, where he has a basin of water. And he just pours some water into the basin and sets it on the table. And he does something with his hands, mutters something, we don't really make it out. And then our camera just sort of looks over his shoulder, and in the water we start to see some scenes going on elsewhere in the world. And so the first scene that we see is there's this wooded, grassy area where there's just a bunch of people wearing bandanas and leather jerkins and stuff. They're just walking along down the path when suddenly a bunch of other, like sort of similarly ragtag dressed people just sort of run out from the trees and start attacking them, and there's a big fight. And sort of in the midst of this whirlwind of action, we see this large man who seems to be on a crutch, just swinging his sword, and he seems to be doing rather well. But then the scene shifts, there's ripples in the water. And when the water stills again, we see this, it's a canyon with a small creek running through the bottom. And there's an old man from town. We recognize this man as Kemp from the bar. And so he's just walking slowly along the stream. He comes to a rock, and he moves it over. And he picks up a piece of paper and starts reading from it. And then just sort of shouts wordlessly to the sky and sits down on the bank, and we can see he's crying. But then the water in the basin shifts again, and the scene changes. And now we see just a lone person walking up the hill, and it's as the sun is setting. There's a ruin of some sort at the top. It looks kind of like an altar or a shrine, something. It's by itself. It's like a gazebo, I guess, but made out of stone instead of thin wood. And she sort of looks back at us, and it's a woman who we haven't seen before, but just the look in her eyes, she's definitely seen some stuff go down, and she's on the run from something. And the scene changes one last time, and we just see a mountain range with some trees going up until the tree line. And it's very still, it's very calm. We can see some birds flying above the treetops. And then suddenly the whole picture shakes. But then we start noticing there's ripples on the water as well. And when the man looks around, he realizes that it's not the picture that's shaking, it's where he is that's shaking. And there's just a dull roaring sound. And then everything goes black. And when we fade back in, we're in a different set of foothills, where there are 9 people walking out from a path that leads to a bunch of ruins. So in front of you all, you see it's marshy, watery territory. In the distance, you can see a forest. You can see, hints of ruins amidst the marshes. This isn't like the Midgewater marshes where everything was close and boggy and the mud was eating at your feet as you step into it. This is just, it's wetlands. There's a lake off to the south where at some point it decided to start flooding north, and now the ground is wet where you are. There are little pools here and there. And so Fjoll, the hillman, he turns back and looks at the rest of you and says, "Well, I'm glad that we have gotten out of those ruins. It was almost the death of us, I think."
I'm glad too. Those ruins were trouble. Nearly ruined us.
I do not ruin. Oh, is ruin used as a verb as well?
Yes. It means we almost lost more than just our way in those ruins.
I see. I would agree with that as well. But fortunately, we are no longer lost, and I believe we can make our way back to home before the sun goes all the way down.
And lead on.
Okay.
Oh,
You-
goody.
Yes, so lead the way.
You agree that you wish to come with us and not camp somewhere or leave us?
No, we're coming with you.
Okay. Splendid then. We need to head east across these wetlands, and we shall come to the forests that you can see. And in the forest, that is where our people have hidden since we were driven away. He looks down. It was a dark night when the orcs came. We had to run across the swamps to finally lose them. They were tracking us. They were hunting us. I do not understand why.
Orcs.
But maybe it has something to do with those armor pieces, because obviously they wanted them for something.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you got a point with that.
Yeah, orcs wouldn't care about ceremonial trinkets. Orcs just kill.
Yes, but
Unless they've been
leaders
ordered
of
to
the
get something.
orcs.
Some of those orcs are pretty crafty.
So now we
Plus,
have
if they were
fear
doing
for
it on
craft,
somebody else's
too.
instruction.
Who
Yeah,
is
that is also
orcs is
strange.
another matter.
You know,
We
if
shall
they had
see.
orders from somebody else to, they make okay lackeys from what I've gathered in my encounters with them. They usually have no idea what they're doing, but they're listening to somebody higher up.
It sounds
I wonder-
more like they're listening to screams and bashing people in the heads. But yeah.
Occasionally, you'll get some smarter ones that tend to rise
You know,
up
when
with
your
command.
whole job is about fighting these creatures, then obviously that's the side of them you're going to see. When the goal is actually just to kind of find out what's going on and investigate things and kind of snoop around, then you see a little bit more of they can do more than just yell at stuff and wave spears around.
Balin,
So you're saying that you've done that, Sarissa?
What, snooped on orcs? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I not a fighter, not trained in weapons use, so I have to figure out what's going on with the orcs without direct confrontation as much as possible.
Balin has voiced a concern which it also resounds within me. I wonder if the orcs were indeed put up to the task of driving us away from our homes and looking for our armor, if it was the same person who sent those assassins after us in the ruins.
Ooh, likely.
Yep, that would
Ugh.
definitely indicate that there's probably, most of these people that plan evil things tend to have more than one plot going on at a time.
Now, are there any strongholds of evil people in this region?
I do not know. We lived in the canyons and did not stray very far. We know the wetlands are here. There are other old buildings that have been long abandoned. If someone new came in with the express purpose to drive us out, perhaps they have a camp set up here. But other than that, the only evil place that we know of is the fortress far to the north, where they say that the dead walk again, but none of us ever dared to go up there.
'Cause you're smart.
It does sound like a place to avoid.
Anyway, we are wasting daylight. We should probably
Let us
leave.
continue, yes.
I also do not know if
We can talk and walk at the same time. Why
Okay.
are we not moving while we're talking? We should be moving while we're talking.
Okay.
I can do two things at once, at least.
We are but men.
Speak for yourself.
Alright. So, if
We
everyone's in
dwarves
agreement,
can pike and speak at the same time when we feel like it.
so if everyone's in agreement, then we start heading off in an easterly direction. The water splashes. It's clean water. I mean, relatively clean. It's not murky, and the mud isn't churning inside of it. There's a few frogs that sort of croak and croak. They make the noise. They don't die. They make their riveting noises and hop away as we draw closer.
Right.
Is there anything in particular that you talk about either with each other or that you'd like to ask? Well, Fuel, but since he's the only one who can talk with you. Balin and Gaulet, they're chattering to each other in their native language. Fuel will listen in and he'll laugh now and then with the rest of them. Clabber is mostly silent. He's just sort of turning over the piece and idly following the others. He seems a lot more interested in the armor than in the world around him.
I don't feel necessarily comfortable talking in front of our hosts, but I'd love to know what everybody's plan is. What's our plan here?
I mean, if you're concerned about them listening in, they're leading the way. So you could drop back as a group to a comfortable distance where he can't hear you.
That's what I'd like to do.
Okay.
I'm not against going to this place. I'm curious to know what our plan is. Does anybody
Well,
have a
because we said that we were going to help them recover the armor piece and then attempt to get the other armor piece that you guys already had to the people it was supposed to go to in the first place. So in order to find out who the armor piece is supposed to go to in the first place, we have to follow them back to their village so we can get the full story. Because it hasn't yet been safe enough for us to get the whole story of what exactly is going on.
And so far, it seems like we can trust everybody here. I mean, we've fought
Speak for
alongside them.
yourself.
But we probably should
Always
have
one
some type of
skeptic in the
plan if
crowd.
there is something that happens once we get there.
Just sleep with one eye open.
Well, I'll trust you guys. I mean, you know this land better than I do. So if you feel comfortable, then I'm fine.
Well, we've got an established
We shall
rapport
see
with
what we
this
see.
group, so they already are accepting of the fact that we're decent folk, more or less.
Poor deluded sots.
They appreciate Pineleaf's cooking skills, so
That's true. That's true.
of course, Pineleaf as a hobbit obviously has superior cooking skills to like everybody else.
Right. I mean, he carries his, she carries her spices with her all over the place.
Well, you never know when you'll need something to eat.
No, I know. This is good. It's good.
I kind of take Terry over to the side and whisper, I thought he was a he too.
That's because you don't pay attention.
Okay. I'm good.
So do you all talk mostly amongst yourselves and not really include the hillmen in your conversations?
I don't
Well,
have.
after all that chitter chatter, I'm gonna cruise back up towards Fuel and ask him what his scholarly friend is finding out about the armor.
Okay, so Fjol and Clabber have just a brief exchange. Again, Clabber speaks really quickly. Fjol, even as a native speaker, he has trouble following along. So he looks back at you and shakes his head. Clabber speaks. He rambles on. He speaks very. What do you call it? River of thought.
Stream of consciousness?
Stream of-
Under consciousness.
Perhaps.
All the big words these people are using.
Minstrel?
So question: are all of you listening in, or is this you as players chiming in?
Well, I'm listening in because
I'm
I'm
listening in.
trying to catch snippets of this dialogue because I'm sort of trying to pick up the native language.
Okay.
Unsuccessfully,
Sorry,
but
Always listening in.
yeah, and I'm usually paying attention. I'm the one person in the party paying attention to pretty much everything. As evidenced by my fantastic recap of what we're doing.
That was an excellent recap, actually. But so Phil continues. Yes, stream of yes. He says what is on his mind and does not really organize his thoughts before speaking. But he's convinced that this is the artifact which we were seeking. He hasn't been told much of the story, other than evidently once upon a time, back when our 7 clans were united under one kingdom, we were given these pieces, and it became a sort of a ritual at some point that to display these pieces together would be a sign that the time was okay for us to reunite. I am not entirely certain what caused the clans to scatter in the first place. It was a long time ago, and whatever it was, it's something which I don't believe the elders like to talk about a lot. But there are also many who doubted that the time would ever come when we would see these pieces again. And so when this did arrive to us, I know that the elders wanted to they had a lot of closed-door discussions that we were not permitted to listen to. But with the return of this piece, surely they should give us the answer so that we can prepare for whatever must come next.
So when we return, the information might be behind the closed door?
It might. I do not know.
Team meeting.
Okay.
So I'm guessing you all just easily fall back from the
So we're falling back
We
again.
literally get in a huddle.
We're not
Yes.
huddling, we're still walking.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to have you huddle and they just keep walking. And then when you're done having your conversation, wow, you're in the middle of the wetlands and you don't know which way to go.
We huddle and walk while we're in the huddle.
There we go.
Hmm.
A walking huddle.
So, all of a sudden, I trust these guys a lot less.
Now,
the
he
reason for that?
see reason.
And for what reason?
The fact that they are just like these lackeys, I thought they were higher up in their tribe than this.
I would agree
We
with
might
Andang
never
for
know
once.
what's going on.
If they were higher up in the tribe than they were, then they wouldn't have been out here looking for the armor.
That's true, but I
True.
didn't realize their tribe had, like, information restrictions.
Well, considering
Well-
how this guy seems to be calling the shots for this unit, I figured he had some kind of leadership stake in this armor retrieval. Now I find out he's more of a dedicated sergeant, and there are generals and captains that we have no knowledge of. Caution is, as always, advised.
Oh, come on, I had this figured out already.
Well, then share with us,
Keep up.
please.
No, I already knew by the way he was telling the story that there were higher-ups that we were going to have to deal with. It's
Yeah,
fine.
because he
It's fine.
sounded vague, which implied that he didn't have full information.
Obviously, he didn't have all the information. That's why we're going back to their village so that we can get more information.
Well, we
Don't worry
better
about
get it.
being behind don't have to worry about it being classified. I know how to navigate these channels. You just have to let me do the talking.
Getting you to stop talking is the trick.
Hey,
Ouch.
we could have gotten better rooms than that in Trestlebridge if you guys had just shut up and let me talk.
We are here, not there. Let's carry on.
I had a great room in Trestlebridge.
The Hobbit shudders.
Yeah.
And then just gets this glare from Sarissa, and she heads up toward the hillman and starts engaging Clever in mime gesture conversation because she doesn't speak the language. Hand gestures are universal.
Those kind of gestures.
Okay, so what are you trying to sign to him?
Trying to see if I can get him to give me like basic words, like via hand gestures.
Okay. So Klabar is still, he's nervous. If you recall, he was actively hiding from you when you all showed up for the
Yep.
first time at their camp. He's still a bit nervous around you, but he's receptive. He's letting you mime at him. Give me a
Letting you mime at him.
either culture traveler. I'd say culture traveler would be appropriate.
Sure.
Yeah. Like he sees you gesturing. If you had a camera, I would ask you to mimic what exactly you're trying to do. But he probably starts to he's mimicking your behaviors, but he's still holding the greave between his hands, so he's not doing a perfect copy, and he's just thoroughly confused. And he'll babble at you, but they're these long sentences, and clearly he's not just taking whatever it is you're signing and giving you a translation. Clearly he's asking you something, saying stuff to you.
Does the rest of the party know what Sarissa is messaging to him? Or is it too confusing of a role to understand what's going on?
You tell us, Sarissa.
I'm just making stuff up at this point.
So it's too confusing even for her.
Yeah. Based on that role, I'm not totally sure that I know what the heck I'm doing at this point. I'm just
waving her
I'm being sociable is the key. I'm pretending I'm doing the whole I'm friendly, you can trust me thing.
Okay. Fair enough.
Pay no
he's the guy
attention to
who's gonna-
this.
He's the guy who's probably going to be the one to get us into the lore stuff, since he seems to know the most about what's going on with the armor. That's my thought process right now.
I was about to respond, but obviously I can't.
Pay no attention to the convulsing minstrel. We shall carry on.
Okay, so since
I have a plan.
You have a plan. It
I
might
have
not
a
work.
plan. I'm not telling anybody
Well,
what
are
the
we,
plan
I know.
is.
Are we going to hear? I mean, we have to keep telling it, telling us to trust her. But I
On what basis are we supposed to stack
know.
this trust?
After Terry says that, I'm like, did the plan include these hand gestures?
Okay, I just went ahead and did a roll for navigation on behalf of the Hillmen, since they're the ones who are actually leading the group. And so, fortunately, they keep to a pretty straight path. Like the sun is a bit lower in the horizon. It's been about a half hour you've been walking through the wetlands. While all this talking has been going on, you can hear the crickets and birds.
Squeaking of forest squirrels and the chew toys of the swamp hounds echo across the plain. Sounds like evening is approaching.
That sounds like a rubber.
I just look over at Carv and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I don't know that you are able to ask this question, since you seem to enjoy recapping the past hours every time we start moving again. What is that ridiculous voice you use when you do it, too?
I'm gonna be the narrator there someday.
So anyway, it's been about a half hour. It's getting darker, and the ground is less wet. It's more firm. It's grassy. You're starting to get within the tree cover, and so Gala and Balin, they're noticeably more alert. They're not chattering with each other much anymore. Clabber looks a lot more nervous, and Fiol is sort of looking around. And he turns back to you and he says, perhaps it would have been better if we had made camp. There are things which stir in this forest at night. We will be safe, assuming we can get to our home. But be watchful for things that move in the forest.
Very well.
Pull my axe off my belt, hold it in my hand, get my shield off my shoulder.
I might as well also get my shield ready. Check my shield. Oh, by the way, do we have any power left, or are we still tapped out from the last battle?
Yeah. Good. You have full power.
Okay.
It resets every session.
Every session, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anyway, I have my shield and a spear ready, just in case.
Okay. So they head into the forest. And it's have any how much experience do all of you have with forests?
Forests are great. I love forests.
Carv's got probably the most, doesn't he?
And I was trained by rangers, so I probably have experience with forests since they are in forests usually.
I'm probably more familiar with swamps than with forest.
I lived
Forests have
I lived
trees.
by the sea, so not. I mean, some, but not as much as you think.
Actually,
it
I
would
am
have.
near the Chetwood, so actually I would probably have some from the Chetwood.
Okay.
I have some experience of traveling through forests.
I see trees of green,
Pretty
yellow
much.
flowers too.
Pretty much. Forests have trees in them.
So, Carve, we know that you like forests. What was your first experience in a forest that made you abandon the underground for forests?
Abandon the underground is a strong word, but I would definitely say that growing up as a young dwarf in the hills above Nogland, learning about the bears and the trees and the forests, and learning that some of my best friends died in a mine cave-in. Give me a healthy respect for the underground, and realizing that the sky has never fallen on my head. So I have no problem navigating through coniferous forests or deciduous forests or marshy bog forests or mangrove forests or any kind of forest, because tree limbs don't tend to fall on you as much as rocks underground.
Have you actually been to all of those different kinds of forests, or are you just being poetic?
If they're in Eriador, then yeah, I've probably been through them.
Okay.
Oh, have you been through the Old Forest? I heard some strange rumors about that place. I was wondering if you could
It's a silly place. I met this weirdo who had, like, yellow boots, and he always sang in, like, pentameter. Sounded just like that. It was weird. The guy was weird, but he had some really tasty beans. I think he probably saved me a lot of wasted effort, because I met him right on the edge of the forest, and he told me that what I was looking for wasn't there, and for some crazy reason I believed him. Plus, I really didn't want to listen to his jabbering on again about Tom Bombadillo and the River Maid waiting, and it sounded weird, so I left.
Okay.
It's weirder than I thought.
So this forest is, I guess, to use the Chetwood as a basis of comparison. Like the tree makeup would be similar because it's a similar climate zone. But you notice it's not as though the trees have been fallen. It's as though in some patches trees just don't grow. There's a lot of small clearings where even like the grass in those clearings it's starting to dry out and die out. But other than that, it's not like the old forest where everything seems to be close, and if you listen very carefully, you can hear the trees muttering angrily. This is just a pretty open forest. It's a little bit sinister because it's nighttime, and you've just been told that there are things that move in the forest that you should be aware of.
Okay, I'm checking around with what light there is left to see if the kind of clearings you described are created by any kind of particular creature that I can discern tracks.
Okay. Give me a wits check if you don't have survival.
I do have survival.
Yeah. Okay. They don't look like they were made by creatures. As far as you can tell, these are like your best explanation might just be that since there are no trees growing there, the grasses there have more exposure to the sun, and so they dried out. It doesn't look unnatural to you.
Tends to be the opposite. The trees actually drown out the grass, and the grass grows where there's no cover. So that's interesting.
No, it's the other way around. It's the other way around.
Have you been to my yard? No, I'm just kidding. Basically, I'm concerned that there are larger than us creatures in this forest, because if there are large pathways where critters could have pushed trees over, that's what I'm really concerned about. But I'm also concerned about any kind of wildlife. Wolves, bears, drakes.
Diplodocus.
Whatever. Yeah, Barghists, any kind of creature that would cause us, like the whole rending of flesh from bone is what I'm really concerned about right now.
If you're looking for tracks in particular, the ground is like it's grassy, so tracks are difficult to make out, especially in this lighting. But you can tell sort of that the path that the hillmen are leading you on, it's a bit more trampled than places where you look off to the side.
Okay. Well, I'm still on alert as we go.
Okay.
See any kind of markings on trees where creatures have been, marking their territory, or where trees have been pushed over, that kind of thing. I'm always looking out for that.
With that roll, I don't know that you'd see any if anything had made markings on the trees, but I mean it's there are no trees pushed over. You don't see any fallen stumps. Nothing's been uprooted.
Okay. Well, they're nervous for a reason. They haven't told us what. They just know that the forest has boogie boogies, so it's enough to make me on alert.
Okay.
Keep in mind, they're not exactly the sharpest knives in the drawer here, guys.
You know what? The sharpest knife and the dullest knife in the drawer can still cut you if it's pointed the right direction. And he can still be scared of the dark.
Well, just because you're scared of the dark doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything to be scared of.
Very well.
You people
The
are
shield
confusing
that is
me.
held at alert will stop more arrows than the shield.
I'm so confused. May.
Phil holds up a hand.
Yes.
Shh. Why
May.
are you talking so loudly when I just told you there might be trouble in this forest?
She did it.
Hey, May.
Yes, Pine Leaf.
Yes, I was wondering, I've always heard that elves were pretty good at seeing at night. What do you see about you?
May, what do your elf eyes see?
Good question. Do I need to do anything? Do I need to roll anything?
Yeah, give me a wits check.
Okay, I just gotta find it.
Yeah.
Which
I have eyes? No.
Yeah. I'm trying to get my thing to scroll down. Oh, you guys. Why won't it scroll?
It's at the top.
Oh, it's at the top. Oh, okay. Oh, there it
Wits
is.
is in the
I got
second
it.
category
I got
of
it.
attributes.
Here we go. All right, there we go.
Yeah, what are...
What are you looking at, May?
Wait a minute. Now I gotta make this even. Did I do it? I did it.
Yeah, you did it.
Oh, okay. What am I looking at?
I'm assuming, are you like peering
Light?
off into the distance and just staring at a single tree trunk? Or
No, I'm seeing lights of some kind off in the distance.
no lights of some kind. I mean, there's the light of the sunset that's still filtering in through the trees. It's not
Oh, that would be
nighttime
good.
darkness yet. It's still sunset.
Okay, all right.
No glowy candle balls.
So yeah, you don't notice anything
Well,
out
I'm
of the
sorry
ordinary.
I'm sorry to be disappointing to you guys, but I don't really see anything strange or interesting.
no.
Why is that disappointing? Maybe there is nothing out there.
I know, but it sounded like Pine Leaf was hoping for something, so I feel bad.
You know what? No news is good news.
One has a point there.
Well, happy to be of help.
So I just did another navigation roll for the hillman.
Uh-oh. Oh no.
It's dark.
Oh, wonderful.
Well, considering the bearings there were on, depending on what's going on, go ahead, Greg. Tell me what's happening.
Okay.
It must be too dark to see their path that they're...
Aren't we getting closer to where they're supposed to be? Like, shouldn't they know that's better?
Well, right, but it's also getting later in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but shouldn't they know where the heck they're going? I mean, honestly, how long?
Are you
how
asking
long
them
do they
this?
travel?
No.
Okay.
Well, actually, yes, I will. I will ask
Okay.
you just exactly how long were you guys traveling before we met you in that ruin back there?
Oh, 40 or 50 weeks.
We had only made our way back there during a day. I do not understand why. Why do you ask?
Well, because you made it sound like the village was fairly close by, so I'm just curious as to how much longer it's going to take us to get
Are we there
to where
yet?
your people are.
Are we there yet? I have to go to the bathroom.
It should be close by. We had to come some distance before we finally lost the monsters that were pursuing us.
Oh, hold on. You were being chased by monsters when you left?
Yes, those
So-
the things you call orcs. Those were what drove us away from our home in the ruins.
Okay, so in other words, they could be lost.
I'm going to say, based on what they were charting as far as our course, assuming that we were heading in a more or less straight direction, can I determine how far off the path we've gone using my exploration ability? Because I should be able to orientate myself in the forest and realize that we've gone off course, assuming that we were headed in the right direction to begin with.
That would be a navigation check if you're
Assuming
basing
we're
it
headed
on
the right way.
Well, since I've never been here before, I'm assuming it's exploration.
Yes, I say more like a forestry or something like that check. I would think.
Yeah, I can do either.
Learn
I can
about
do
trails and
explore
stuff
or
like that.
navigation. Basically, the idea is that if they're lost, I can try to prevent us from going in circles and get us back on the right path.
I mean, exploration would be if you wanted to say, you're lost, I'm taking over. If you're just comparing
All right,
the
I'll
original
compare.
path with the direction you're going now, that would be navigation.
All right, well, we're
I think
navigating.
it's good.
The dwarven sense of what is kicking in. So I'm checking trees and looking for moss on the north side and all kind of those fun things.
You
Okay,
notice, like whereas you had started off going more or less straight east, maybe a little bit in the southerly direction, you're now moving more north than east.
Okay, I'm going to ask these guys.
So at some point in the forest, you change directions without realizing it.
So we are now going in a different direction that we started when we entered the forest. Are we still heading the right direction? Because by my calculations, we're off course. Do we need to redirect back in that direction? To get
Which direction
where
are you
we're
pointing?
supposed-
The
that one.
correct one.
Okay.
Yeah, the direction we were originally headed before we went that way. Because it sounds like we were going east, which in my mind is that way, but
Yeah,
now we're going more that way.
So north, south, east, west. Which direction are you pointing?
I'm pointing back to the east, which is the direction we were headed originally. But now you're saying we're going more north.
Has the sun finished setting yet?
No, it's like I'd say like 7:45-ish, maybe.
Well, then the sun should be at our back if we were heading.
Yeah.
Well, if it's
But now
7:45, then the sun would have had to have set by now, assuming that it's it's what,
Oh, that's true.
October now.
Okay, yeah. Sunset then. Thanks, Pine-Leaf.
We're in the dark, and they have no idea where we're going. And I'm like, we should be heading more to the right.
If the sun had set, then they would have brought out torches so that they could see underneath the canopies.
Okay, my other question is, out of curiosity, what is the phase of the moon at this point?
It's waxing full! Waxing full!
You mean like for how much light?
Well, because then it will tell us whether the moon has risen yet, or if the moon is going to rise in 20 hours from now. Well, of course, if the moon's rise for 20 hours, and it's probably already up.
Thanks, Pine Leaf.
Yeah, like. So
That's totally out of
early
here.
October, whatever phase of the moon is in early October.
That
what we're
varies from year to year.
So apparently Pineleaf is a sailor hobbit and knows all about the cycle.
Waxing full. We're saying it's starting to get bright, but it's not completely bright yet. And go.
I mean, so the sun has just set, if it has set. Whatever time of day, whatever phase of the moon, that's where we're at now. It wasn't so long ago that the sun was at your back filtering through the trees.
Okay, so this is gloomy.
So we
then,
should
right?
at least know where west is.
Yeah.
It has to be
Tell us
behind
where east is by.
east
Yeah.
is that way, and
You
we're
would
kind of
know
heading.
which direction. Yeah.
Okay.
And we thought we were lost last week.
Now the
Well,
GM
I can
is
tell
lost.
you, I know where we came from, and I know what direction we were headed, and I know what direction we are headed. And if we're supposed to be going that way, now we are heading this
Sun
way.
was
So
at our
we need to
back
go
before.
to the right to get the sun back to our back again.
In response to the comment that now the GM is lost, did you see their navigation roll?
Yes, I did.
That's why I came back with my own navigation roll, because I was like,
You just might salvage this.
I'm like, whoa, no. Carve doesn't like being lost.
So feel. Give me a persuade check, Carve.
Uh-oh.
Oh, okay.
Not too bad.
So so Fuel like looks around. He's there holding his torch, making sure it's steering clear of the branches and stuff. And he says, "Perhaps you are right. We did not spend long in this forest. I would trust your judgment. You seem to have shown good navigation skill earlier." And then Gala laughs.
All of us laugh.
Actually, no. Actually, I'm right. Gala wouldn't understand that, so he doesn't laugh.
But he would. He would if he understood.
He would if he understood. Yeah. Okay, so you start heading east again. I'm gonna roll again to see, So, are you going to be more actively making sure that they don't stray from a straight line path?
Well, I don't know where we're going, so I can only say that we're going off of the course they set. So they can roll, and I can counter roll to see if we're straying from that path.
Okay, sure. So,
Or we
I'd
could
be
just say,
more observant at this point.
oh, we'll
Carve
just,
out
Also,
logs, Dwarven compass.
from your previous roll, if they start to stray off course, you'll correct them. So this roll will just be a how long does it take, and does anything venture across your path, not whether you're going in the right direction.
works for me.
Nice.
So it's another half hour or so of going through the forest. There are a few times when Carve has to correct them and say, like, I noticed that you've been veering north again, or whatever. And so they correct it good-naturedly, and finally you come to a clearing that's up against a cliff, and you see the mouth of a cave in front of you. Thoughts?
It's a cave.
Well, this looks promising.
I mean, the hillmen are walking towards the cave, so...
Well, if they've got torches, they're obviously not being secretive about it, so I guess we should carry on. Still alert, though. You never know what could be in a cave in the woods. Could be a bear.
Gonna be okay going in the cave?
I'll be fine in the cave.
Just double checking.
Are you going to be fine in the cave?
Oh, I've been in caves before.
Are the people in the cave going to be fine with you in the cave? Could be dark in there. You never know what might.
I'm completely
Disappear.
harmless.
It might get misplaced.
Completely harmless.
I like the idea of Carve saying this with an earshot of Fuel.
Okay, so shall we go?
Okay. So, like,
Not even wielding any weapons. I'm totally harmless.
so as soon as the hillmen, particularly Klabber, as soon as they make it inside the cave, they visibly relax. They're not looking at all. I mean, I guess there's not much to look at in all directions anymore, but there's a chewy we're home feel about the whole situation.
Well, you know, if nothing else, it's an easily defendable possession.
So the Fuel says,
Listen to little Miss Harmless over here. We can sock in here and get real defensive. So let me ask you a question. Sarissa, since you seem to have so much tactical knowledge, does the acoustics in the cave make for better for performances? Is that why you're so familiar with the underground?
Well, it depends on the cave. I mean,
I
obviously, some
see.
caves are better than others for acoustics.
Oh, does the contents of the cave have any bearing on that?
Well,
It usually does. She plays some really great songs in caves.
I see. Are they like romantic ballads like You Stole My Heart?
if I'm requested to play a romantic ballad, sure.
We do lots of weddings.
Have you heard about the wedding of Carvelant and Ballerina?
Missed that one.
Ah, I heard it was an incredible success. Anyway, let's carry on with the story.
I like the idea that Carvelant and Ballerina's wedding is legendary enough that it's spoken of with reverence.
Do you know
among
how
dwarves.
long it has been since there was a dwarven wedding? Dwarven females are rare enough that they got married. Wow.
Actually,
Times.
to answer your earlier question, the contents of the cave does in fact affect the acoustics, because the more fabric and stuff that you've got in the cave, the more it's going to absorb the sound. So you do have to kind of be careful about what's laying around. Yeah.
Well, that makes absolute sense. Does metal, piles of loose coins, for example, impact how well the concert is?
Not usually.
Oh, okay.
Phil looks back. What caves have you been in that have piles of coins?
Well, he's a dwarf.
Well, there's hoards, there's stashes,
collections
there's
of
caches,
hoards.
there's banks, there's vaults, there's
I haven't been in any
innkeepers'
caves with
satchels.
hoards of gold lying around, but
Ah, yes.
I suppose if people did live underground or in caves, they would establish such things. Our home is just down this tunnel. Now that we're out of the forest, it is much more easy for us to regain our bearings. And so the tunnel slopes downward. It's kind of twisty, but not confusingly so. It just sort of winds. There are a few branches that come off, but they're very short. You can see the end of them. There's either like collapsed rubble at the end, or it's just a small room that someone's left a torch burning in. But when you finally get to the end of the tunnel, you open into this large cavern. There's a little bit of water sort of trickling off of stalactites, and there's small areas of damp pool and mud at the bottom. So, but then elevated off of the floor of the cave on just piles of rocks and sort of smaller pockets that have been carved out of the cavern wall. There's cook fires, there are little tents set up, and this is where the refugees of Fuel's people have been living. And in fact, when the hillmen step into the cave, Fuel turns around and says, "Well, it wasn't our original home, but welcome to our new place of residence. We have called this the Falaich de Waf, the Cave of the Folk."
What the what?
Bless you. The Cave of the Folk. Okay. Our people.
It's nice.
Gracious. That'll do.
You may speak plainly. This place is nothing compared to the residences that we had been dwelling in, and even those were just crumbled buildings that we had repurposed as shelters.
Certainly not a hobbit hole.
A hobbit hole. So your people live in caves.
Not quite a cave, but we would
cave.
dig it. We would usually, when we make one, we would dig it out ourselves, because the caves tend to be wet, and we prefer a drier hole.
He looks around. Yes, I understand that. So he says something to his companions in the native language, and so Clabber's face brightens, he nods, and he scampers off, and Balin and Gala are escorting him. He turns back to you and says, I've instructed Clabber to present that to the elder. What's so funny?
Yeah, Pineleaf, what's so funny?
Is he presenting the cave diggings, or is he presenting the gauntlet? Or the greave?
Oh, yeah, I guess I assume you're talking about the cave style, yes.
Oh no, the grieve.
Oh, the grieve. Okay, I apologize for misunderstanding.
That would be funny though. I understand why you left. We can try to find a spare tent for you to spend the evening. Would you like to eat first, or would you like to try meeting with the elder? I will provide. I will serve as your escort here and help to translate. There are not many of our people who speak your language, but there are others. The leader of our clan, for example, is fluent in your tongue, much better than myself.
Well, we wouldn't want your elder to get lonely. So I think we can talk to him now so that he won't feel lonely.
I certainly wouldn't want him to get the wrong impression of our visit.
Indeed.
Let's meet the elder.
It is her actually, but okay, we can go speak right away.
Let's
Yes.
meet the village eldress.
So you is Eldris a word?
No.
It is now. Dwarven.
Dwarven?
There are no dwarf women, but there's eldresses.
How would you know? So unlike in voice and timbre.
You just
Some
said
people
that
wouldn't even
they're-
know.
So Phil leads you in the same direction that the others went. You're splashing across the water. All of you give me an insight check.
An insight check.
Dang, Carve, you're rolling well today.
Oh, insight.
That one's at the bottom section in the middle column.
I think Maven might be AFK.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm here. I'm talking.
Oh.
I can't get it to scroll. I can't get my
Oh.
character sheet to scroll. There we go. Never mind. Then it popped me out of the game. It popped me out of the roller. Okay. Insight check. Here I go.
Okay. So, ironically, Sarissa, the one who wanted to learn as much about these people as possible, I guess I'm assuming maybe since it's a cave, you're keeping an eye on things. You're not really paying attention to how other people, you're sort of zeroed in on fuel, and but everyone else, you notice like the people are looking at all of you as you're dressed in strange garb compared to the rest of them. They all have the sort of similar skin tunics and sashes that Fuel had. A lot of them are, they're grungy, I guess. Like they're not dirty, but they're certainly haggard. According to Fuel, they'd only been living here for a few days, but those few days have certainly taken its toll on these people. And
How
they're
many are we
regarding. Sorry.
How many people,
Numbers.
give or take?
All in total, you would guess by the tents and stuff that there would be maybe 75 to 80 people in the entire cavern. You're only
Wow.
walking by like 20 or so of them because others are on much higher elevations throughout the cave wall.
Out of curiosity, what's the age range of the people?
Oh my gosh, finally.
I mean, there's children, like these are families. There's children, men, women, elderly.
Okay, so a full range.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
so it's a village then.
Wow. That's more than I thought.
So you continue your splashing. Carve and May probably notice that they're receiving more stares out of the group than the others.
The ladies love the beard.
Yeah. Okay. So you make your way at like the far end of the cave. There's just it's a giant tent. There are torches, and if you go inside, like Phil leads you inside. Do any of you say anything before walking inside the tent? I should ask.
Any customs we should be aware of before we meet this village elder?
I think you will be okay if I am with you. So he pushes open the flap and he says, "Mother, we have returned."
Oh,
And so inside you see Balin, Gola, and Clabber. Or Balin and Gola are standing off to the side. Clabber has been in conversation with a woman in maybe her late 50s, early 60s. But she's, she's not like decrepit or anything. She looks fairly spry for her age. And she's dressed exactly the same way as everyone else. She has like an extra claw sort of hanging from her sash, and that's really the only token of office that you see around her. But she looks up as you come in, and like motions to Clabber to pause. He finishes rattling off his sentence for like an extra 5 seconds and then falls silent. And then she like nods in greeting to the rest of you and says, "Hello, my name is Shannon Biana. Welcome to our home. Clabber had mentioned that you had helped our people in the ruins. For that you have my gratitude." Feel like elbows whoever he's standing next to and says like, "Please show respect to the elder."
Kart bows in dwarven fashion and says, "We are honored to meet you," and repeats her name, which I can't remember. Sha-la-la-la-la-la. Sha something or other.
It's like Brianna without the R.
yeah, Shannon Biana.
Shannon Biana, we are honored to meet you.
I got it.
Okay, so Biana,
Yes,
I guess.
showing respect, taking off the hat.
Okay. I'm assuming then that all of you are doing some sort of greeting and just not.
My greeting is showing that my swords are sheathed. Like I just
holding up your hands.
show up that
And I'm
like
trying not to
I'm
cover
just
my
kinda-
face.
I think that I will model myself after Sarissa, seeing that she's the most likely to be the world wise of this group.
I'm just kind of standing behind everybody because I figure they know better what to do than I do. So I'm sort of just.
I'm trying not to cover my face in shame at Ending's behavior at this point.
So Fuel, I guess, starts walking towards his mother. But before he says anything, she holds up a hand and stops him and says, "Fuel, please go find the cook. We have a spare tent off to the side where our guests can remain. I understand, according to Balin, that they were interested in this relic, and seeing as how they have been of such help so far, we might give them more information and see if they would like to continue. As I understand," and she turns to the rest of you, "that it was not one but 2 relics which you have brought from the ruins. Is this true?"
Well, actually, only one of them was found in the ruins. The other one, part of our party had already encountered down by Bree.
So Fuel has left the tent to follow his instructions. But Biana says, "Bree, that is the town down south, is it not?"
Yes.
Ah. I'm laughing at what Andy posted. I completely lost my train of thought.
sorry about that.
It has been a long time since we have heard news from that region. Are you all from that city?
I am from Stattle, which is next to Bree, and it was in the swamp near Stattle where we found the other item.
There is a swamp near Bree.
Yes, the Midgewater.
Oh. Well, then much has changed since the last time we heard news from down there. Interesting. Well, do you mind if I see the item?
All right.
Who has it?
Yeah, that's the question. Who has the item?
Not me. Somebody took it out of my backpack.
It was.
I haven't had it for
Or did
a
I
month.
give it? I thought I
It
had
was
it.
given to Fjoll and his buddies.
He returned it. I can't remember who exactly he returned it to.
I think I gave it to
I'm
Sarissa, and then
Pretty sure that he still had it because he asked if he could hang on to it.
yeah, so he still has it.
Like 99.9% sure that he still had it.
Okay.
Feels
I'll
You
like
flash
didn't
it.
leave it on a rock or something, did you?
I mean, so if he has it, then I guess Clabber would have brought it to her already. Okay, I'll trust your memory more than mine. But,
Either way, she gets it.
yeah. So she has it. These markings are the markings of a tribe which dwelt in the Weather Hills, between here and Bree. I'm not certain that. I don't know why it would be found south of their location. Who had it when you found it?
Goblins.
Goblins. The Bokab.
Goblins had waylaid some sort of messenger.
I understand.
Yeah. Now, the goblins were not only had recently come from into the marshes. I assumed that they had come from the Weather Hills.
It may be possible then that they had brought the messenger with them. But regardless, it is clear that the people who were supposed to receive this helmet never did. I cannot imagine why the goblins would take an interest. Do you think... How much do you know of goblins?
They're nasty folk.
What would it take to organize them? All we had seen of them were rampaging pillagers who would attack towns that were exposed. But this seems like a coordinated effort to prevent us from having our artifacts.
Goblins are motivated by two things, in my experience. Territory and fear. I would speculate they felt like they were in a position of strength to come from the Wither Hills into the Midgewater Marshes. There were some rather sinister artifacts. Where they got those, I don't know.
That is interesting. We will have to bring this very quickly. How much has Fjoll told you about our rite of convocation?
Not a whole lot.
I see. Perhaps the best person to tell it to you would not be one of our people at all, but one of yours. He was a citizen in Bree who traveled north to the city of Trestlebridge. Are you familiar with that city?
A little bit.
Defended it a few days ago.
Okay. He had left that city a few months ago. He did not explain why, but that was when we met him. And he has stayed with our people since, and he has been a wonderful source of historical information. It has filled in a lot of gaps from what we had from our traditions that had been passed down. I will have you meet with him for dinner then, if that is okay with you. And he can fill you in on more details. I would like to finish talking with Clabber, Balin, and Golle to see what they have to say, what their impressions are. Surely you must understand.
Yes, I would love to meet this person.
An older fellow, probably a master of lore. Probably
Yes.
carrying books in his head. I have an inkling.
We call such people a Vihista in our language. Perhaps that is equivalent to what you would call a master of lore.
Yes. Very interesting. I would like to meet this Avahista.
As As if on cue, that's when Fiola opens the flap of the tent again, peers in and says, "We have meals prepared." And Biana says, "Good, Fiol. Please bring them to dine with the Vahistu, and he will tell them more about these relics. You may sit and join them as well. It is time you learned about this too." And there's like a flicker of annoyance that crosses his face, but he says, "Yes, mother. Please come with me." Do any of you have any last things to say to anyone in the tent?
It seems pretty over at this point. I think it's time to move on.
Okay.
I'll give a little finger wave to, is it Clabber?
Clabber.
The guy with the, yeah.
I'd like to think that there's some gesture that you had made during that previous attempt that he not knowing what it means, just sort of mimics it from memory.
So, if I'm getting this straight, Terry Adwin is trying to get collaborate to listen?
Collaborate.
And listen. I see. Or gesture. Ending just shakes his head.
Many times.
That was stretching, yeah.
Okay, so Fiol leads you. It's not across the entire cave. You go sort of up a slab and then make a left and a little bit to the right. But you're sort of in a digging out of the cave, close to above where Biana's tent was. And inside there's a man in just a brown cloak. I mean, like it was probably a richer red color at some point, but it's just been so faded over the years that it's just a dull brown now. There's a little bit of designs sort of stitched inside the sleeves, but you can't. It's really faded. It's really old, but it was a nice cloak at some point.
Well, I hope he's wearing more than the cloak.
I mean, yeah, and then he has like his just like a weathered leather, maybe not leather, but a weathered tunic, and then like some leather straps over it. He has just sort of traveling pants and heavy boots. There are low shelves around him that have a few tomes, a lot of just stacks of paper. There's a few scrolls. There's a table off to the side that looks like a study bench where he's been in the middle of transcribing something. And he, whereas Biana aged well, considering that she's probably in her early 60s or so, this man did not. Like his skin is very wrinkly. It's like clinging to his skull. He's got pure white hair that's just been sort of pushed back, comes down to like behind his ears. No beard though, and just his eyes are like always wide. And he looks up as you come in. And he says, "Ah, yes. Are we eating now, Fiol?" And Fiol nods and says, "Yes. I will be back. I will bring the food back up, but." These are the guests that I had mentioned, who came from your homeland, the town south of here. Perhaps you can let them know what it is that you know of our artifacts, and we will learn this all together as we eat dinner." And the man nods and says, "Yes. I always like to tell a good story." So Fiol leaves to get the food, and he stands up. He sort of, like he's conscious that he probably doesn't look. He's wearing actual clothes, but he brushes them off. He's conscious that he's not very well kept, and he just sort of sticks out a hand at nobody in particular and says, "Hello, my name is Gerald, Master Gerald. I used to be the lore master in Trestlebridge.
Called
Oh,
it.
hi, Gerald.
Called it. I knew it. You perchance wouldn't have worked with Raylinial, would you?
Raylinial. Let's see. She was slightly short, brown hair. Spent all her time in the library, now that I think of it.
So that's a yes.
Yes. She was a wonderful apprentice. Very bright, very sharp. I assume that nothing has happened to her in my absence, has it?
No. She's in good hands now.
Well, that is good to hear then. But why? How did you meet these people? Did you also leave because of the Ghost King?
The what?
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 What's this about the Ghost King?
Hold up. Carve didn't hear nothing about no Ghost King.
Back up.
There's a
back
There is
up.
a Ghost King who lives in the fields around Fornost.
Well,
I knew that place was bad news. I knew it.
Do any of you want to do an insight check?
Oh, sure. Because that's worked out so well for me so far.
Here, I'll do it.
yeah,
I'll do
why
it.
not?
I like rolling for insight.
I think
Outside
I made an
problem I had
outside
with.
check. Yeah.
Pineleaf, there is totally a Ghost King. The rest of you, this guy's not all there.
For the benefit of the chat room, Pineleaf didn't roll well.
Ghosts?
That's so fitting for a Hobbit.
So if
You
you
like
do not
it,
know
like
about
in
the
the
Ghost
Barrow
King,
Downs?
then why would you venture into the fields?
we did.
Well, Trestlebridge was attacked by orcs. And
Was?
I'm just going to give him, like, the details of what's been happening the last couple of weeks without the whole previously on Tales of the Free Folk voice.
Oh yeah, don't let Endane do it. Don't let Endane do it.
Conversationally
Previously
sum up,
on Tales of the
basically what
Free
we've been
Folk.
through and why we left.
And dang it, Sarissa, I wanted to tell the story.
with
Oh, thank you, Sarissa.
3 of this current
Yeah.
party members defended the town from a ravaging army of orcs.
hey.
Oh
we
my
helped
goodness.
Too.
What? Huh?
We helped too. We just weren't in town at the time that it happened, but we helped. in that
Yeah,
battle.
we've already established that whole you can't boast about secret missions thing.
Yes, you can
Yes.
after the fact.
It's like that fish I caught. It was this
So big.
So he gets the gist of what you're saying. I think you probably don't finish your story up to the point where you've been brought to the cave because you just noticed that he was just sort of staring off into space and not paying
Not
attention
paying
to what you were
attention.
saying.
Yeah.
But like as soon as you stop talking, he's like, okay, yes. So that is why you were here.
So
You were
I
here
may have
about-
thrown in a couple of really strange embellishments there at the end just to see if he noticed.
What kind of embellishments? Are they just embellishments to the story, or are they things about like dragons which came from the sky, including rainbows?
I don't think I got crazy enough for a dragon, but yeah, embellishments to the story that the rest of the party knows isn't quite how things happen.
I mean, so that's what
I
I'm
was
asking.
probably getting to dragons. I just got, just kind of gave it up as a bad job before I got to that point.
And I'm just assuming that because the way that she's embellishing is what minstrels must do here in Middle Earth. So,
Because storyteller, hello.
right,
I
exactly.
was asking
Actually,
one
that's
last
probably very. It's probably very.
So nobody else in the group is likely to interrupt me, and yeah.
Well, we all know how you get when your story is interrupted.
What I meant was just from like for. I mean, you could add in, as many battles as you'd like, and he wouldn't know if it was true or not. But how
That's right.
ridiculous are you getting with your embellishment?
Well, like the actual encounters that we had have been exaggerated to at least double the number of people.
Okay. So that's the extent of your embellishment.
But it's okay because I made everybody look good. Because Carve took out a bunch of guys, and Andang took out a bunch of guys, and May did her minstrel thing, and Pineleaf was the most awesome warden in
Yeah,
existence.
did I bring Arthur back from death? Once I did.
And so now you've done it twice.
Yeah.
Oh, and I've done it twice. Okay.
But did he die? Or
In the
didn't he
retelling,
die?
it was much more dramatic.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so then if there was nothing, if there was anything absolutely ridiculous, he would have stopped you and questioned you, so...
And we've actually let him know that Arthur has stayed now with Rayleniel, which is the good hands we referred to earlier, right?
Definitely.
It
That
means
was
nothing to
definitely
him.
Part of the story.
He's, like... If you mentioned Rayleniel at all, it probably registered to you that he's, like... When he focused on you, he stopped thinking about her and probably would not remember unless you asked him to remember her again. Okay,
Wow.
so
Senile.
Short-term memory is not real.
So this is a completely reliable source of information. Got it!
Yeah, really, no kidding.
Certainly not
I
the
mean,
brightest candle.
that's
in
my
the
job as the
world.
GM, right? To give you with these perfectly reliable sources of information.
That's all right.
Well,
Okay.
maybe we can snoop at his notes later.
So, by the time you finish your story,
This is said in a whisper to May, by the way. Maybe we
Yeah.
can snoop at his notes
Yeah,
later.
okay.
he
Alright.
wouldn't have noticed anyway. But by the time you finish your story, Fjoll has returned, and he has. There are a couple of other people with him who just sort of wordlessly brought in just these platters of food. It's the sort of stuff that they would have found nearby. So there's a lot of fish. There's probably a few like conies that have been roasted and they're still on their spits and they're on these large platters. There are a few unrecognizable things that look like they've got giant nose creatures that are still tied to the spit. They haven't been carved yet. Probably stuff that was found inside the cave.
Cave claws. Lovely. Tastes like chicken.
And then there are
Don't
a
think
few.
too much about where it comes from.
There are a few, like, there are also, it's not all meats, you know, there's also breads which look like they've been made in kilns, and there's, like, a few vegetables, no fruits, but there's a few vegetables that look like they might be just on the edge of spoiling, and Fjoll probably would actually just point that out, even if you hadn't noticed it, and just say, I apologize about the state of the vegetables, but all that we have are what we had taken with us from before our farms were raised.
It's fine. I
farms in
love
those
vegetables.
There were farms in those ruins?
Yes, somewhere. Probably burned.
Somewhere.
Somewhere.
Wait.
There were
Real
farms in the
reliable
lower
burnt.
levels. GM giving you a big wink. Yeah, so he sits down, starts digging in. The old man Gerald, he's loving that there's now a feast in his quarters. He's just like, whereas Fjoll is probably, he's serving himself, and I'm assuming that's what the rest of you would do as well, since that's the custom. He's just like cutting bits off of the platters and just eating those directly. His plate's completely clean.
Alright.
I'd like to think that even with stuff like the bread, he's tearing off pieces and eating it instead of taking like a full slice or something.
Pineleaf's going crazy right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Is how would I rate this food, and how much of my spice kit will I need in order to make it a good meal?
Do you want to give a cooking check?
I guess I could do that. Let's see. First, find this cooking.
It's under crafting. It's like the middle of the page, kind of.
And it might be blank for you, Pineleaf, if you didn't fill it out.
Oh no, it's
No,
definitely.
he has it.
Oh, he's definitely got it.
Yeah, he's rolled it before. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Like the the vegetables are almost rotted, but the bread is passable. The meats are actually quite good. They're well seasoned. Do you try any of the strange cave creature stuff?
Does Carve recognize it?
I'll start with just a small sampling.
I would think I might recognize some of the cave critters.
Yeah. This is what your people call cave claws.
That's what I thought. Tastes like chicken. I want some. I'm hungry. Carve want eat.
If you try a piece, it does not taste like chicken.
Forgive me, it's a dwarven joke.
All right, but is it at least palatable?
I mean, it's it's cooked all the way through.
Okay.
Like the conies are okay. The fish is okay. The cave claw stuff tastes really, it's kind of stringy. It has strangely like a little bit of a tart taste to it, kind of, or like an aftertaste. But it itself has been heavily seasoned, and so you'll have parts where you get that strange aftertaste, and other parts where all you taste is just whatever herbs and salt that they've used.
In other words, they put a lot of spices onto it in order to make it palatable.
Yeah. As little as you know about it, that's probably as much as they know about it.
Yes.
All right. So is anyone not eating, or does anyone have any specific dietary concerns?
I think I'm too hungry to have any dietary concerns on this matter.
And it's free food, so I'm all over all of it.
Okay.
Well, since I know Cave Claw and I have no problems getting along, I'm totally just gonna nom down. I'm avoiding the veggies though.
Is anyone having ending? You said you like it.
I like vegetables.
Okay. Give me a vitality check.
Okay. Here we go. There we go.
Okay. Yeah. It's a little bit off. I don't know if that causes you to stop midway, but you don't suffer any ill effects.
I live. Great.
Yay! Thank
Well,
heavens.
it's not a question of whether you live, it's a question of how you live.
And he rushes out of the cave with gurgling noises in his lower intestines.
And then he's gonna need his own tent later.
And then he's gonna have to sleep outside.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
None of that
They were
happens.
good
You're
vegetables. It's
You're
fine.
fine. Yeah, they were great vegetables. Like maybe you prefer them to be steamed and not boiled, but aside from that,
They're vegetables. They're good.
yeah. If any of you, I was going to ask if any of you ask anything of Master Gerald, but whatever you ask him, if you did ask him anything, he's too busy eating. He's just he's focused on the food. Like just as before he was focused on Raylinial, and then he focused on you and forgot about her. Now he's focused on the food and he's forgotten about everything else.
Sure.
So he's just in the zone eating. Fuel sort of mentions, but he for the most part is just quietly eating. It must just be the custom to eat before matters of business instead of doing it at the same time. But he just remarks offhand that Master Gerald may have odd behaviors, but I assure you he has studied a lot of things, and when he starts talking about his the things which he has studied, he has a clarity that I don't think you see yet.
I hope so.
So do any of you ask anything of Fuel besides his remark?
Mm-mm. I don't.
Okay. So then you all probably continue eating. At some point, whether or not you're still eating, Master Gerald evidently has enough, and he just sort of puts down his knife, grabs a patch of his tunic, pulls it up and wipes his mouth, and then tucks it back down. And
So,
then
Gerald.
clears his throat, and he says, "So, I understand that you want to know more about the Queenika Grieve."
Yeah, that.
Let's see.
It would be nice to know more.
Have any of you tried learning their language since you've met them? It's a wonderful language.
I actually have tried. Didn't get anywhere, but I did try.
Zermath Dwi, my friend. That means good luck.
Okay.
But anyway, about the Grieve. To understand this, you must understand the state of these clans over 1,000 years ago, back before the fall of the North Kingdom. And looking at the time, I think we'll just end it there for today.
Ellipses.
To be continued.
We've got to go into a significantly long backflash.
Yeah, 2 weeks of backflashing here.
Flashback, that's the correct word. I was wrong. See?
There you go, Carve.
Flashing back. Backing flash.
And on that note, thank you everyone for watching this week. Next week we will hopefully find out, or in 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
we'll hopefully find out what the heck's been going on with these artifacts that have been the question of the series so far. This has been kind of the overarching story, and hopefully we'll finally get some real answers. So,
Real answers.
I've been giving you real answers.
so till next time, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.